Hello viewer, I hope you're having a splendid day. In this video I thought I'll talk about something that I care about a lot and that I think has always been under attack: individuality and freedom of expression. And don't get me wrong, we probably have more freedom now than ever, but there's still a lot of societal stigma against anything considered unusual, and my goal here is to talk about how we should abandon this mindset. I think it's interesting how as society we police each other and we extend that policing to things that don't actually bear any tangible harm. Why are we so afraid of being cringe? I think it's because of the way people perceive us. We're afraid of being judged. By we, I mean people in general. My personal philosophy is that if someone is willing to be mean to me or avoid me over something they find cringe that doesn't actually hurt anyone, then their opinion is not worth taking into consideration. They're just not my person, and that's fine. You can never make everyone like you. Like, not everyone has to like me, nobody has to like me actually. But at the same time, I don't have to conform to what people would like, because that wouldn't be me anymore, so what's the point? In case any boomers are watching, cringe is this second-hand embarrassment, the discomfort we feel when someone defies the social norms of coolness, or of what is normal, what is considered normal, or what makes us uncomfortable, or of just doesn't stick well with us, of what we don't like. It's kind of a catchphrase for at this point for a lot of things. It's not necessarily, like, by definition tied to immorality, although it can be. I'll get to it. I personally think that, and here is my statement, to be cringe is to be free. It means breaking free from the invisible cage of constant self-monitoring. It means seeking your true self and allowing it to shine. I'm aware that it's easier said than done, but I think it's worth it. When it comes to feeling that you are cringe, there are some interesting psychological effects at play. Cringe sticks with us because our brains are basically built to overreact to it. We are social animals, and there's just a bunch of mechanisms that we use consciously or unconsciously to stay a part of the group, except I think in this case it's misplaced. We overestimate how much people notice our mistakes. It's called the spotlight effect, and we often remember things as being worse than they really were. On top of that, we've got a negativity bias. Embarrassing moments loom larger in memory because they're supposed to teach us not to repeat them. Kind of like how an animal remembers where it almost got eaten. The trouble is, a lot of human cringe isn't actually useful. The article I read about this gives an example of accidentally calling your teacher mom. I will link you this article. But our minds still file it away as if it's life or death. That's why these moments replay so vividly, even when everyone else has long since moved on. Although personally I think we should differentiate between genuine mistakes and things we do deliberately. It's one thing to call your teacher mom, and another to dress in an unconventional way or have a hobby people don't like. It's not just like genuine. It's not just the same thing as embarrassment. I don't think any of those should have this huge negative effect on you, but I'd like to focus on the latter. When it comes to cringe on a societal level, not as a feeling of an individual, it gets more interesting, I think, because if I tell you, don't flagellate yourself with a slipper over your embarrassing moments, don't dwell on the past, I think most people will at least get behind this message, maybe not necessarily follow it themselves, but that's a generally acceptable message. But when I say, leave fairies be, I become cringe for even defending this group. A big part of online cringe is the way we judge other people's failed self-presentation. We laugh or feel superior when someone posts something awkward, but at the same time, maybe there is a sting of recognition, because it could just as easily be us. Every profile, every post is a performance, and when we see someone else lose, it quietly teaches us the boundaries of what's acceptable. cringe compilation and callouts became a kind of collective policing, showing us how not to act. But the rules are as unstable. What's fine today might be cringy tomorrow, so judging others is also a way of constantly updating our own sense of what's safe to post. The internet became like this modern panopticon, where you end up self-policing because at any time there is a chance you'll be seen doing something wrong. Panopticon is a concept introduced by Bentham, for anyone who doesn't know. It's this idea of a prison structure with a guard tower at the center, and the guards can see into all the cells, and even if he's not looking at you at this very moment, you never know if you're being watched. You know he can be watching, so you behave yourself. And on social media, we're both guards and the prisoners at once. I'm not sure who made this comparison first, but I heard it in my lecture, and I just think it's a really good one. And I don't think it's worth it. Cringe culture often polices creativity, passion, and earnestness, and the world is sad enough as is. There's no need to keep so much negativity in our lives on purpose. I think it's really sad to see people losing their spark because of mindless bullying. There are many examples of especially people online jumping on a bandwagon to hate someone over stupid stuff. More often than not, the people acting cringe are the only victims in these situations. One story that comes to mind is that of the band Sorbet, an aspiring J-pop group. They went viral after posting a cheerful TikTok introducing themselves.
1, 2, so sweet! Hello, we are Sorbet! We are an idol group based in California, and today we wanted to teach you guys our call and responses!
Hello, I'm Alice, and I am the green member of Sorbet, and my emoji is a little four-leaf clover, and I like to bring luck to all of my fans. So for my call and response, I sort of incorporate that. It's pretty simple. Basically, I'm just gonna go lucky, lucky, and then all together go Alice. Ready? Lucky, lucky, Alice! Thank you!
Hello everyone, my name is Barry, and I'm the leader and pink member of Sorbet. So I'm going to teach you my call and response. So I start out by saying, strawberry, and then you repeat back, blueberry. And when I ask, who's everyone's sweet idol, you're going to say, Betty-chan. Are you ready? Strawberry, blueberry. みんなの甘いアイドルは Betty-chan. Hi, Betty desu.
I'm the red member of Sorbet. I'm going to teach you guys my call and response. So mine is based off my Oshi mark, which is the red dragon Mahjong tile. And a quick history lesson of my call and response includes two moves from Mahjong, Hon and Kan. Hon is a 3 of a kind, which represents Sorbet as a trio, and then Kan is a 4 of a kind, which represents Sorbet, and as well as you guys. So mine's pretty long, but bear with me. It's going to go clap, clap, Hon, clap, 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 Kan, clap, clap, and then I'm going to call Zumo, which is a winning move in Mahjong. And then I'm going to go, it's my victory. All right, ready? 1, 2, clap, clap, Hon, clap, Kan, clap, Zumo. Thank you guys.
What was meant as a fun call and response video quickly turned into a storm of backlash, especially aimed at the leader, Barry, for pronouncing words with a Japanese accent. I've seen someone point out at the time that these words are borrowings in Japanese, and that's just how they are pronounced. And so she just pronounces them Japanese way because her call is actually in Japanese. Like she says it in fully in Japanese within the same video. Some critics accuse the group of cultural appropriation and weeb behavior, while others piled on with general cringe mockery, or like focusing on the girl's appearance. It's not surprising in hindsight because Japanese media enthusiasts are a pretty common target of cringe culture. The clip spread across TikTok, Twitter, Tumblr, Reddit, and Twitch, drawing millions of views. Within days, the group reported being doxxed and released apologies and statements with their intent, though many felt Barry's explanation only made things worse. Why is that the thing now? Why is being annoying punished by having your well-being threatened? Barry actually lost her job because people found out where she worked. Even if some of the criticism was right, this is not a reason to make someone fear for their life. Scholars online and fans of the genre pointed out that accusations of appropriation in idol culture are more complicated than internet outrage allows. Overseas kaigai idols are often welcome in Japan, but online discourse in the US tends to flatten the appreciation and appropriation into the same thing. I think it's kind of similar to Avril Lavigne's Hello Kitty, which was not received well in the West, but her Japanese fans liked it, and ultimately it was a song for them. In the end, Sorbet disbanded and became a case study of how quickly online cringe policing can escalate into real-world consequences, where the punishment far outweighed the original crime. And to be fair to everyone, I think we're all aware that stereotyping and fetishizing Japanese culture is an issue in the West. So I get why some red lights would flash in your brain when you see white American women showing this sort of interest in Japan. But people should just do more research and not immediately jump to conclusions and to harassing others. I just don't think that's what it was at the end of the day. What Berry apologized for was mostly her demeanor, because as she said later, there's no need to apologize for correctly speaking a language she's learning. And in the end, she continues her solo career as a musician and a content creator, but it's not like people left her immediately after Sorbet disbanded. Also, this is just my personal opinion, not a part of the story, but I love her smile. I'm from a culture where we don't smile as often as some others. Sometimes tourists are taken aback when they come to Poland and they see that no one is smiling. Smiling is more special here, I guess, and she smiles so much, and her smile is just so beautiful, and she seems so sweet despite of how she was treated. That amazes me. That perseverance and positivity, that is beautiful. An older, but I think still relevant example could be Rebecca Black. Back in 2011, she released her debut song Friday, which admittedly wasn't great. It was low budget. She didn't write it or choreograph it herself. She made it with this company that gives you a song and you just perform it, and now you have your own song, which I think is a cool idea. And also, she was just a kid, but she still became a meme, mercilessly mocked by thousands of people. Friday went viral shortly after its release, becoming the most disliked video on YouTube at the time, with 1,17 million dislikes, eventually surpassing 3 million dislikes, which accounted for 88% of total ratings. The song faced heavy criticism for its simple lyrics, auto-tuned vocals, awkward choreography, and the rap segment that just wasn't it, making Black an early target of internet mockery. Despite this, the video gave her massive exposure, leading to appearances on shows like Glee and support from artists such as Chris Brown, Miley Cyrus, and Simon Cowell. Black later released a follow-up, Saturday. After years of online bullying, she reclaimed her past, remixing Friday into her DJ sets, but refusing to be defined by it. Now she's released a recipe called Salvation. She toured internationally. She joined Katy Perry's Lifetime tour. Just a full cycle moment, since Perry also supported her early on. Black credits the isolation she felt during her Friday backlash for deepening her love of music, eventually leading her into hyperpop, DJing, and today her work openly celebrates queer identity, turning religious imagery on its head, and she's still going, and I, again, admire that people can persevere, and I think it's good that at least she got a career out of it. It's not like that undid all of the bullying and abuse, but that's great that she has that. Another noteworthy and particularly tragic situation that I can think of, and that I think really should be included in this video, is that of Damien Leotard. They became one of the earliest and most extreme examples of internet harassment. In 2010, Damien posted a profanity-laced response video to rumors that they'd been raped by a friend and were in a sexual relationship with Debbie Vanity, a singer of Blood on the Dance Floor. They were a preteen, a literal 11-year-old child. Those clips, originally meant for a small online scene, spread to 4chan where users exposed Damien's personal information and flooded them and their family with abuse. The situation escalated when Damien's father appeared in a video with crying Damien, and he angrily warned trolls that they had done goofed and that consequences will never be the same. Lines that became viral memes and only intensified the targeting.
I'm gonna tell you right now, this is from her father. You bunch of lying, no good punks. And I know who it's coming from because I backtraced it. And I know who's emailing and who's doing it. And you've been reported to the cyber police and the state police. So you better write one more thing or screw with my computer again. You'll be arrested. End of conversation from her father.
You're right, it's fucking gonna come and beat her ass.
And if you come near my daughter, guess what? Consequences will never be the same. You lying bunch of pricks.
The family received death threats, their home came under police protection, and Damien lost friends and safety in daily life. I think the internet changed considerably since then, because now it's blatantly obvious how wrong all of this was. I want to think that more people would take Damien's side if this happened and nowadays, and that maybe more people would defend them. But we will never know. Things worsened when their father was arrested for abusing them and later on died in custody. And years later, Damien came out as trans and non-binary, and in 2018 accused Vanity of sexually abusing them starting when they were 10. Claims later echoed by more than 20 women. Looking back, Damien has described the ordeal not as simple cyberbullying, but as harassment and stalking, which it was. The first story I told you was more recent and more commonly associated with the word cringe, but the change in vocabulary doesn't mean this concept is new, so I wanted to also include some older examples, so that we can look at them from the perspective of time that passed. Perhaps it's easier to admit that the trolls of the past were wrong and that we ever could be. I think a lot of the tabloids with paparazzi infringing on celebrities' boundaries could also be considered a manifestation of cringe culture 20 years ago. For example, when they mocked visibly mentally unwell Britney Spears. Again, when we see it today, we probably feel empathy, maybe some pity, fear for her well-being. But back then they mocked her. I guess my question to the audience is, who benefits when we fear being cringe? On some level, I think cringe culture is used to maintain some social hierarchies. A lot of cringe compilations target autistic or queer people specifically, as well as women and girls. People at the top decide what's cringe and what isn't. It's like school bullying, except not just at school. And it's not just bigotry. I think a lot of it's about exploiting vulnerability. A lot of it nowadays overlaps with being anti-woke, although again, that's not just a now problem. God forbid you call yourself a feminist or say racism is bad, No, you're woke. Back then you would be like an SJW or a snowflake. The language changes, but the idea is the same. One more example I have to illustrate that would be Faz99.
Why do I call myself gay if my pronouns are he, they, and I'm dating a girl? Well, not true. What? Your pronouns don't equal your gender! I can say that louder for y'all in the back if you want me to, too. You can identify as any gender you want and use whatever pronouns make you feel most comfortable. Meaning you can identify as a male, but use she, her pronouns if that's what you like. I identify as just me. Whatever that is. I'm just me, baby. And I like to use gay as an umbrella term, like how queer people use queer for themselves. Because that's what feels right to me. Duh.
As far as I'm aware, their biggest crime is being loud, colorful, animated, and too happy for online communities liking. And you know what? I don't like their videos either. I don't like it when people scream, and I like when people go straight to the point when they want to say something without too much of an intro. So if I see that, I scroll away. It's just not for me. But clearly there are other people out there who like different stuff than me, so there is an audience to that. Or I can try to look for something good in it. Faz seems like such a positive person. Like, it's a shame people are so mean about it, because that's admirable, because I think that's beautiful in a way. Obviously, I can't know how any creator behaves in person when there are no cameras recording, but they seem lovely and maybe like the type of person I could be friends with, because I'm sure they don't always scream, but that positivity is hard to fake. I haven't seen that much of their content, but they seem correct in what they're saying like most of the time, and I think it requires so much perseverance to keep on being yourself when so many people are mocking and criticizing you. It's honestly worth admiring, and meanwhile people are picking apart every aspect of them and their appearance and trying to make them out to be a predator with no proof. Like, that's life-ruining accusations with no proof and no victims to back it up, and just no source, just vibes. And that, I think, is just pure homophobia. There is a stereotype that queer people are pedos, so when a queer person does anything we don't like, they just must be a pedo. We are way too comfortable with bullying. Just because we consider someone weird doesn't mean we can hurt them. I would think that's obvious. If you talk to anyone like one-on-one, they'd probably agree, but then why does it happen so much? I don't get this part. Nobody wants to admit to being a bully face to face, but then there's so many of them. Like, where do they spawn? Also, one term that particularly annoys me, because people make parodies of like what they consider cringe, is the co-opting of the term pick-me girl. A pick-me used to just be a woman who puts other women down in order to attract men. Now we added all these other characteristics that are not necessarily harmful. She dresses in either a stereotypically girly or slightly tomboyish manner. She has a pretty quiet, high-pitched voice. She's small and shy. I don't know, maybe I feel a bit attacked personally, because a lot of these characteristics are true for me. But I've seen people calling out specific fictional characters too, like Fluttershy from My Little Pony, and there's nothing wrong with her. Now I'm cringe for defending a fictional character from a children's cartoon I like, but no, that's not a pick-me. No. She's just like that. She's not doing it deliberately no. Cringe culture benefits our flawed status quo ideologically by targeting minorities, but it also benefits people monetarily. Cringe compilations and gossip and drama are so lucrative, and people want blood. Negativity sells better than positivity. That's why the news is so negative even when things are going better than usual. And a lot of times people do deserve to be called out for their behavior if they're genuinely doing something evil. I see that, but a lot of times it's not that. Or the terms are getting muddy and mixed up, and we call someone cringe for doing something, evil, while we also use the same word for people being invested in some fandom we didn't like, or having some hobby that we didn't like. Or the internet creates lolcows and then also pushes them to do bad things, and retroactively justifies the past bullying when it didn't actually start because the person did something bad, but because they did something cringe, and they're likely undiagnosed autistic or schizophrenic or bipolar or whatever, and they just strongly react to being poked by all these people who are cyber stalking them and monitoring their every move online, and they act quote-unquote funny and defensive. I know that's... Yeah. Christorians scare me. How do you even have that? That is... I'm not going to call that hobby cringe because I think it's immoral and I want to keep my terms separate. But that is a hobby I would criticize. Why are you stalking people online? That's... no. Like, this is just modern freak shows, except they are involuntary. If these people actually do something bad, I bet the crowd following them rejoices. This has nothing to do with justice. A lot of these compilations also target kids on top of that, which I think is extra problematic if you're an adult watching that. I think we underestimate the degree of harm online ridicule can cause. Like, it angers me to no end when parents post their own children misbehaving in some way or crying, because how can you betray your own child like that? Like, that's... Would you like your own lowest moments to be posted on the internet for everyone to see? Would you like to not have safe people at all? Like, would you like to feel like you don't have privacy in your own home because someone can record you and just post it online to humiliate you? Like, sometimes I see some humiliating posts of a kid doing something wrong, with just thousands of people commenting on how cringe that kid is, and often about how they should be beaten. Like, people would post gifs of belts just to reply that, oh, beating this kid would stop them from like crying or screaming or doing whatever. Like, you are evil. This is just not okay. But adults aside, kids bully each other too, and I don't think we are doing enough to prevent that. And sometimes kids film themselves doing cringe stuff we also did, except in our case it wasn't documented and immortalized online for all to see and pick apart, because we just didn't have that option to do that to ourselves. Like, who didn't want to like be a vampire, a werewolf, or a mermaid and didn't play and maybe say some dumb stuff? Who didn't do their makeup poorly at first? We should let... On one hand, we should let kids be, on the other, I think we should educate them, because it's just scary to think that like some kids have that public forever and they can't do anything with it, and they're just open for the criticism, which shouldn't come. Like, people should not be mean to kids for stuff they post online, but they are. And it's terrible, and I think we shouldn't be telling kids to just grow a thicker skin. I think we should protect them. And the thing is, that feeling of secondhand embarrassment that we call cringe isn't wrong in itself. Sometimes we see someone doing something we see as silly, or we see that they're attracting a lot of negative attention. We may put ourselves in their shoes and we get that feeling of, I wouldn't want this to be me. There's nothing wrong with having feelings, although of course it's worth examining where they come from. Like, we don't control our feelings, but we do control our actions, and I don't think our reaction to seeing someone doing something we cringe at should be ridiculing or bullying them. But on a level of actions, being afraid of being cringe means self-censorship, not trying things, not being enthusiastic. Being passionate, earnest, and unfiltered is usually seen as uncool, but it's also the most alive. And honestly, I don't like thinking about it, but we do only live once, and I think it's sad when people feel the need to dull themselves down to fit in and not use that very limited time on what brings them joy. And also, cringe loses its power when you lean into it, I think, a lot of times. If you're doing weird things but you're confident about it, like, people tend to be more forgiving from my own experience. Although it may be also that I got older and maybe it's just more difficult to be mean to a person my age than to a kid. The internet amplifies the shame but also creates safe havens for self-expression. I think a good example of that, which now is called cringe, is that like 2020, 2021 pandemic popularity of alternative fashion and also queer expression with a lot more people trying out new names and new pronouns, and I think it seems like many of them moved on from that, but there is no harm in experimenting. Also, I think some of their fashion trends were cute. I wish more stuck to this day. People were stuck at home and their social interactions were limited. We mainly used social media to interact with people from outside our household. They didn't fear judgment. Maybe it felt like the world is ending anyway, so they tried some new things. And I think it's beautiful how being closed inside somehow, ironically, gave us freedom. People started new hobbies, gained new interests, experimented with fashion and identity with no fear. I'm seeing parodies of 2020s and alternative / neo-pronoun kids nowadays, and on one hand, who am I to judge what people find funny, but on the other, I do think a lot of them mock behaviors that could be associated with neurodivergence again, not to mention the trans identity in general. Sometimes the defense is that, oh, these people were mean and toxic and they supported cancel culture, and I agree that many definitely were chronically online and a bit overzealous, but this just isn't pointing out specific bad behaviors. It's building this archetype that exhibits these behaviors and also other behaviors that are harmless but for some reason considered cringe. Also sure, I encountered woke people of all kinds that happen to be assholes too, but it's not like they're spokespeople for their race, gender, sexuality, style, fashion, or anything. So I'm not going to hate these characteristics. And it's weird because people act like someone was ever trying to force them to use neopronouns, when I bet the vast majority of them never spoke to a neopronoun user in their real life. And online you can just scroll away if you don't like someone. You don't need to talk to them. Even I never used a neopronoun in a sentence, even though I know quite a few trans people. It's just this rare and it doesn't harm anybody. If somebody wants to use neopronouns, just let them. I don't see how that impacts you. Being cringe is being free. It's choosing joy and authenticity over approval. The alternative to cringe isn't just coolness and fitting in. It's conformity. And that's why my personal attitude to all that is, I just ignore it. I'm aware of the rules of what is cringe and what is not, I think. And I just don't let that impact my behavior, at least not consciously. What can I say? I'm not a sheep. If I think a rule is reasonable, I will follow it, but I won't act a certain way just because that's what other people do. When I was a teenager and went to high school away from my hometown, I really wanted people to like me. I was quite a lonely kid, and this was my first start. I had a clean reputation. That was the dream, actually, because I was teased and alienated by other kids for being weird back in elementary school, and I hoped it would stop in middle school since I had a new class there, but some people, including this one particular bully, overlapped. So that wasn't a new first start, and it just mostly continued. But in high school, I could start fresh. So I decided to fit in, to do what is expected of me, dress how other people dress, to do the things they do. And you know what? People like that version of me. I spent more time hanging out with my peers than ever before and after. Honestly, too much, because I'm an introvert and it left me exhausted and I didn't enjoy it. And despite being surrounded by people, I felt even more lonely than before. I thought I will always feel lonely at that point. Part of it is, I think, because somewhere inside I knew that they don't actually like the real me. They just like their own reflection that they see in me. Also, I didn't like them either. It's not like we actually had shared interests or personality traits. I was just trying to be nice to everybody. And I still try to be nice to everybody, but I have my boundaries now. So, yeah, I snapped. I gave up. I decided I'd rather be alone forever than force myself to be doing all these things I don't like and then not even feel happy. It felt pretty miserable at first, because people were disappointed in me and they were like, "Oh, you changed. Why are you so closed off suddenly? Like, why don't you want to do these things that like we did together before? Why did you change like that?" And I didn't change. I kind of just unchanged, but yeah, none of these people talk to me anymore. And then the most magical thing happened. I didn't end up alone forever. After some time, I found my own people whom I like and who like me, like the actual me. At least I hope they don't secretly find me annoying too, but I don't want to think about them in this negative way. I think they're really kind people, so they wouldn't lie to me. Anyhow, it's not worth it. I like looking weird. I like creating dumb stuff. I like making dumb videos. I like sewing dumb things. I like wearing my dumb things. I like doing dumb DIYs. I like talking a lot, and I like talking about things that other people don't like. And I like talking about things that other people don't find that interesting. I think a part of a healthy relationship is enjoying the fact that the other person derives happiness from something they're passionate about, even if you're not, and supporting each other in it. Although it's cool to have people like who share your interests, but it's unhealthy to hide it where we differ. Next time you feel embarrassed about liking something, just remember someone else's cringe is your freedom. Like, this is you. You don't have that much time to be you. So what's there to lose? If you lie about who you are and people like that, they don't like who you are. Like, they like the lie. And there's easier ways to learn it than I did, definitely. Yeah, I think that's all from me for now. And just to end this with this personal note, I hope at least something that I said was in any way useful or interesting to you. If you have any more thoughts regarding this topic, maybe I didn't mention something, or you disagree, or maybe you have any comments on the art I'm making in the background. I was actually only planning to make this super simple fairy house, and the deers and everything was just an afterthought. And meanwhile, the deers are personally my favorite part of all this. I love my deers, and they're almost like little toys, little guys in my head now. I have a whole story for them in my head, so that's cringe. Anyway, if you have something to say, I would love it if you left a comment in the comment section down below. And for now, just stay safe, stay you, and peace.